Whiteness. Whiteness is selfishness, unbalanced and unchecked power, manipulation, and control. Whiteness is the thing LA that people these days call sin. And no, I'm not talking about your skin color before people get their panties in a bunch. I'm talking about your mentality. The way that you live on this earth. How do you treat people, other beings? How do you treat the earth, the universe that gave birth to you? Fuck off. As equals or as something to own, something to use. Today, we'll be dissecting whiteness and all of the archetypes that I have found in the movie Edward Scissorhands. I love this movie, y'all, and I thought this would be a fun way to parallel my work in decolonizing brains and also, shut up, getting to watch a fun little movie. I feel like this is just a really, really, really fun idea. So let's get to it, shall we? So each character that I chose to dissect today are Peg, Bill, Kim, Kevin, Jim, the religious chick, I don't know her name, I'm not gonna lie, Joyce, and that old man, yeah, the weird one, him. Shut up. So the first archetype we have today is Savior. Very, very interesting one. It is like one of the most notable, and we see this one all throughout history. It's when someone sees a group of people or some person living outside of their norm and they go, hey, you're not living in a way that I agree with. It's wrong. Let me show you the way. And that is exactly what Bill and Peg do with Edward. So Peg actually stumbles across Edward simply because she's trying to sell her face care shit and no one wants to fucking buy it. So she's like, you know what? No one's buying my stuff. So what if I go up on that big old creepy house on the hill? They'll definitely buy it, yeah. Worth a shot, worth a shot. So she goes up there, of course, for some sort of gain. Like all colonizers, it happens. She goes up there. What she finds is unusual, of course. It's Edward chilling in his little mansion. She sees this guy and she's like, oh my god, I've never seen anything like you before. She's like, I can fix you. So she grabs him and she's like, why don't you come on down to my house? I'll just swoop you on in. You can sleep in my daughter's bed. My daughter's water bed. With scissors for hands, yeah. So she takes him in. She gives him clothing. And he has scissors for hands. He can't put the you know what? Whatever. He rips up them clothes, okay? Trying to put them shits on. Alright. Ends up with Peg having to stitch them back together because obviously why would you give him those if you knew he was gonna just tear them the fuck up? When someone is obviously disabled, has scissors for hands, right? You can't treat them like they have normal hands. You may think that that's making them feel respected, but in all honesty, it's just making them lose more of their dignity and just kind of humiliating them, honestly. Because I've had so many people do this with me or other people that are disabled. Like, they'll try and treat us like we aren't disabled because they see disabilities as inherently bad. And I'm gonna circle back to this later on when I get into the other archetypes that I have written down. But they see anything that is different as inherently bad. And that is the colonizer mentality that I am talking about. They don't try and work with the person and where they're at. They try to completely change them from who they are into a completely different person that is not them, but is another one of the colonizers, right? Now, this may come from a place sometimes that is with good intention, right? But intention and impact do not often meet at the same level, right? The intention could be good, but the impact could be very, very hurtful. Well, there's still some people around me sometimes that will repeat things over and over again, knowing that repeating things over and over again makes my tics worse, but they're just trying to treat me like a normal person, right? But I have boundaries, specifically as a person with tics. I can't be treated like everyone else. I can't. I cannot be treated like someone that doesn't have my disability because I have my disability, right? Like, do not sit here and let me pick up a singular P with my fucking scissor hands if you have the ability to feed me. And that goes for not only disabilities, but also other struggles in general. If someone is struggling and you see them struggling and you have the ability to help them, help them. Do not just sit there and act clueless to their struggles. Do not just sit there and act like it's not happening, because it is. And if it was you, you would want someone to help you. So do the same for them. Yeah? Let's be better than white people. Thanks. Let's get into Bill's character. Now, Bill and Peg, I feel both baby Edward in a way that is almost very unnecessary. Like, yes, he sometimes does not understand what is going on in this new society that he's been put into, right? But they treat him as if he's almost like clueless to literally everything. And that's just not the case. And I feel like that is how colonizers treat a lot of people that are different. They treat them like they know nothing.
We're not trying to confuse him more. We're trying to make things a little bit easier for him. So let's cut the comedy for a little while, all right?
I know me and my friend earlier today, we were literally talking about how us as neurodivergent individuals, people tend to baby us, put on a baby voice when talking to us, or almost over explaining things, immediately assuming that we don't know what's going on, when we are extremely capable of understanding what is going on. We just are different. And that is immediately deemed as us being less than cognitively. And that is not how it should be. After Edward was caught for breaking into a house for Jim and those other dweebs, we'll circle back to that later, he was released under the idea that he did not know right from wrong. So later that day at the dinner table, Bill tries to give him a little ethics coaching, correct? He asked Edward, if you found a suitcase full of money with no one around and evidence, what would you do? A, keep the money. B, use it to buy gifts for your friends and loved ones. C, you give it to the poor. D, you turn it in to the police. Edward answers with, give it to my loved ones. Obviously, they're not happy with that answer because in this society, you are supposed to give it to the police, right? And Kim goes, well, isn't that the nicer thing to do? Like, that's what I would do. So obviously don't just go dogging on him for saying that, right? And Bill says something here that really, really sticks out to me. He says,
well, we're not talking nice. We're talking right and wrong.
And this is something that is so prominent in history, past, present, and future. Who decides right from wrong? And if it is not up to being a good person, what is it up to? If right and wrong are determined by law and not by a good moral compass, are we not doomed to corruption? Shut up. Now, given the example with the suitcase full of money, you could argue that you should have gone with answer C, give it to the poor, whatever. That's not the point that I'm trying to make right now. The point is, law has been used as a weapon far too many times in our history to harm others. And it is still being used to harm others to this day. It is not up to whether it is a good thing to do morally. It is up to what the law, the government decides is what they want done. Not because it's a good thing to do, not because it's morally correct, but because that is what they deem fit. And we all know that the government has no moral compass whatsoever. But moving on. Now let's talk about this religious chick, because this is where things get really, really, really interesting when talking about colonization and religion, because religion is literally inherently colonization. I know so many people are going to get mad at me for saying it, but hear me out because it's very much true. So when she lays eyes on Edward, she immediately says that he's the spawn of Satan or whatever, and that he's a perversion of nature. This is actually spot on for people that are religious. They tend to call anything they don't like or understand evil. This is how religion has always been used. It has always been used as a weapon to divide and conquer, call out or isolate people that you don't like, that are different or whatever, paint them as evil, as the demons or whatever, and just say, hey, this is what we don't like. And it always works in the 1%'s favor. Of course it does. This is no coincidence. Religion deliberately teaches this to people through feigned enlightenment and superiority by simply believing in what they do. You are immediately deemed better or good because you believe in a certain thing. And those that don't are stray sheep, and that is a very interesting wording that she used in this quote. She said that earlier when she first confronts Edward in Peg and Bill's backyard.
It's not heaven he's from, straight from the stinking flames of hell. The power of Satan is in him. I can feel it. Can't you, if you poor sheep strayed so far from the path?
This is the type of thing that religion teaches you. It teaches you to stay in line. It teaches you to follow a leader. It teaches you to fear nonconformity.
Don't come near me.
Religion is so widespread because the message on the surface seems fine, but if you really question it, and that is something that religion doesn't teach you to do, once again, of course, the 1% benefits from this. They don't teach you to question anything. They teach you to follow. They don't teach you to look for answers. They teach you to read and listen. And that is what's so concerning about this, because in our history, I'm talking Black history, in our history, when we were forced here by the white man, they would beat us, they would eat us, they would torture us. They wouldn't let us read or write. But guess what we could do? We could go to church. Do you think that they did that out of the kindness of their heart? That they let us go to church? No. Let us go to church. They made us go to church to teach us submission. To teach us that we need to die in order to gain heaven. In order to gain eternal happiness, we need to die. But they get to live that right now. while they feed off our labors and beat our backs. Do you know how fucked up that is? It's insane. Really. So yeah, they teach conformity, colonization, and fear. They teach whiteness. No shit. Tattoos, bad. Other body modifications, bad. Other beliefs, bad. Having disabilities, bad. Being gay, bad. Being trans, bad. Etc., etc. Says who? Says other human beings who think they know more than you do about your own existence. Because let's face it, all of these books, all of these tales, whatever, were written by human beings. By a white man in power, wanting you to listen to what he has to say, wanting you to remain under his control, under the guise of a higher power. And that's just that. No one knows better than you do about your own existence. Live how you want to live if it is not a harm to you or others. The fact that they feel so personally offended by what you choose to do with your life is all you need to know. Their whiteness makes them feel entitled to controlling your decisions. Amen to that. Now, Joyce. Joyce is a character that I despise entirely. Joyce is the rapist archetype. Now, is colonization. Again, all of these things are just wrapped up in one big ass bow of colonization, okay? But rape says, you don't own you, I do. And that is exactly what Joyce does to Edward. Does she actually get that far? No. But she was planning to.
Edward, you come back here! You can't do that!
And because she couldn't, she made up this lie that Edward was the one that tried to rape her. Because she could no longer control the situation. So guess what? She decided to control the narrative because that's the only thing she could control. When colonizers no longer have your physical form under control, they turn to reputation. They turn to racist caricatures. They turn to law. They turn to redlining. They turn to putting drugs in a specific area. They turn to over-policing a specific area. They turn to saying that you deserve to die because of your skin color. Because of the now tainted reputation that comes with the color of your skin. Being born with a specific shade of skin means that you are marked by a beast of some sort, that you are the beast. And by exterminating you, they are somehow cleansing the world of what? Of who we were before colonization? Of Earth's original people? Of the people in tune with culture that actually cares for the Earth and the other beings that inhabit it? Exactly that. Now, before Joyce decides to spin this sickening story about Ed, she first tries to use him, and that is how it always starts, right? I need your help with something. But really, they're taking advantage of you. They use your labor, they put their face on it, and then when they can no longer benefit from you, they throw you out like some washed up animal. All the people in that town had those cool little haircuts that Ed gave them. The cool little dog haircuts as well. His cool art on their bushes, paws. Anyways, all of his art, all of his labor was there. Was still there, and yet they chased out the very person that gave it to them, that made that possible. And that's exactly what happens in history, isn't it? They drag you to a place, right? They insist upon you helping them, you doing labor for them, willingly or not. Once it's done, once they get all they can from you and you're tired, you're old, or the system is no longer working the way that they want it to, suddenly you're an intruder. Suddenly you're a monster. Suddenly you need to leave the very place that they forced you into. Correct? When we don't comply, when we show any emotion besides a big happy smile, we're met with outrage. Because that's the thing. They like to use us. They like us when we're convenient, when we can do something for them. But the minute we aren't exceptional, the minute we fuck up, the minute we're human, or they can no longer benefit from us, we're monsters. We're painted once again like a monster that is deserving of death and mistreatment. And I'm sick of it. I'm tired, honestly. Now let's talk about Jim. Jim is your full-on raging, selfish colonizer archetype, okay? This is the one that is not quiet about their hatred for people that are different, for disabled people, for people of color, etc., etc. This is the type of person that hates you but loves to benefit from you. They see you as less than, as a freak. But when they see that you are profitable in some way, oh, all of a sudden that changes for a split second. But once they get what they want, they shut the door in your face. Come on. This is seen in the women's suffrage movement in history, when women were fighting for the right to vote. Now, black women and white women were working side by side, right? We all know that black women were the backbone of that movement. We fought the hardest. We had to, of course, because as a person of color in this country, you always have to fight harder than your white counterparts. And that's exactly what we had to do. Because when it was time for women to finally be able to get the right to vote, it was only white women that got the right to vote. They booted us to the curb. It took us decades after this movement to gain the right to vote. We scratch their backs, they leave ours itching, and then we're forced to break our own arms off to use them as a back scratcher. Now, Kevin, Kim's little brother, is in the same category as Jim, but to a less harsh degree, I would say. Yes, he mistreats Edward. Yes, he calls him names, all of that good stuff. But he never goes as far as Jim does, physically assaulting him and trying to kill him, of course. Yeah. It would be weird if he did that because he's a little fucking kid, but he's on his way to growing up like Jim. Let's just say that right now. Again, he uses Edward for gain, reputation gain. He makes Edward come to his show and tell. And he's like, look at what my cool, weird housemate can do with his scissor hands. Ooh, shiny type of thing, right? Once he gets his little spotlight moment leeching off of Edward, he goes back to saying that he's a dope and all of this BS. Like, their main goal is self-interest. And I feel like this is all of the colonizer archetypes, though. But this one being the most noticeable. Not much to say on Kevin. He's just a little piece of shit. Now, I want to talk about this old man character. This one is extremely creepy and off-putting to me. He switches characters pretty fucking quickly. He goes from don't ever let anyone tell you that you have a handicap at the barbecue to calling him a cripple and asking Kevin, hey, have they caught him yet?
Who? Him, that cripple. Let me know when they do. Let us all know, okay? Like a good boy?
That line shook me to my core, because you know what that line reminded me of? I immediately thought of the KKK. I immediately thought of lynchings. I immediately thought of witch hunts. It reminded me of those things because of what he said near the end. He said, tell all of us like a good boy. What do you think he wants all of them to know for? I mean, at the end, they kind of show you. They all gather around, all mad, screaming, marching down to his place, hunting him down, and they don't stop until he's supposedly dead. They do not let this man rest until he is supposedly dead. I feel like a lot of people in real life also tend to do this. They go from this savior archetype to this burn the witch archetype, right? It's scary, really, is what it is. Even retreating into isolation is never enough. Then they want our lives. Because if they can't own our souls through controlling or benefiting from our behavior, then they'll own the moment it leaves our vessels. Now let's talk about Kim. I don't necessarily like Kim. And I know people are going to be like, what? Why not? Well, I'll tell you. Because Kim's archetype is one that I know all too well, and it is very prominent in a lot of communities where it shouldn't be, especially the alternative community. This is the scared ally type of person. She's too scared to actually stand up to injustice. She knows that it is happening, but instead of making actual change, she mopes about it instead. She understands and cares about Edward, but not enough to stand up to injustice, not enough to lose her proximity to whiteness to bring him justice. She always chooses the more convenient route. Instead of owning up to the robbery and ratting out Jim and his fuck-ass friends, she chooses to stay quiet about it.
Well, why can't you just do it?
Because my father keeps the damn room locked. We need Edward to get us in. What's fair got to do with it? There isn't any other way.
There's gotta be.
Look, I've racked my brain. Don't you want us to have our own van?
Instead of bringing him justice, she fakes his death. And this is what irks me so heavily about existing in a society like this. We never get a happy ending unless this happy ending involves them in some way. We are not allowed to exist amongst them without putting up with some sort of injustice, without putting up with mistreatment. That is why subcultures are a thing. That is why we have certain groups. To keep bullshit out. At least for a little bit. This type of society is always about control. And the way that they gain this control over you is never one and done. It is through small steps. And I'm going to repeat this again. Small steps. First, it's new clothes, which may seem nice, but is it for hospitality or for conformity and control? We are going through this as I speak. And the steps are not small anymore. We all know this. They're humongous. Organize in your communities, please. Thank you.